welcome to yet another episode of the Quad Damage Podcast. Today we bring to you a completely impromptu session where we hack together some of our very best and brightest who joined us on a minute's notice. So hats, if we were wearing them, off to them. Joining us today, well, I'll introduce the regulars. I'm Midnight Medium. We've got Robert and Deadforge, of course, as you may have heard of. But we've got Tibor from Fatbot Games, known for Gravelord. Thanks for joining us, good sir.
Hi.
We're also blessed with the presence of El Mugu of Cult fame and Osrika Viscerafest. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. I really appreciate the willingness to set an hour on fire with us.
For the viewers at home, of course, we did put out a promo that Sam Wadaholic was going to join us to talk about Total Chaos. Unfortunately, some things have happened which mean that he was not available to do so. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Sam, I hope everything's okay, brother. I hope you see this, and we'll catch you next time, mate.
All right.
I got my cat. He wanted to join us.
Let's get booming.
Well, they're going. It's out. You can buy it. We've been patching it. Oh my goodness, there's so much cat here. You can't see him, but he's slightly off camera. This is my boy Smudge. He's being very needy right now. But yeah, no, things are going pretty good for the most part as far as like the actual game is concerned. We are currently in the midst of working on a big new game plus mode. And that will and basically what that will feature is, oh no, my kids are gonna kill each other.
Hey, stop that.
Anyways. So what's coming with that is we're basically going through the entire campaign, completely rebalancing everything top to back to account for late game weapons and enemies in the early game as well. So you can kind of think something in the vein of like Doom Eternal's master levels, not quite as like upping the ante difficulty wise from the base campaign like the master levels did, more so keeping things somewhat consistent throughout with maybe a slight incline in difficulty. Yeah, and another big thing with that is I've actually been experimenting with completely changing the route you take through some levels to beat them. And so, yeah, but full game is already out. Like I said, that's the main campaign, 3 chapters, 21 levels. I think it's 21 levels anyway. It might be 23. I might have to rethink that. Anyways, but with that, we also have the unlockable gameplay modifiers and cheats that you can use when you're replaying the campaign. You can play as Dopefish, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's like we have enemy randomizers, pickup randomizers. There's, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. There's a mode that basically makes the gameplay like super hot. There's a ton of stuff, both in terms of like just your normal run through the campaign, as well as like replaying the campaign. That we provide a lot in terms of the overall experience. So yeah.
Well, that sounds like it's going to have a lot of long legs on it, man. People are going to be playing that a long time into the future now that you've got so much out. What's the reception been like? I know what it is on the Steam reviews, but I'm like, from you as a developer, how have people been with you,
Things have been pretty quiet, to be honest. I think a big part of the issue is the game just took so long to come out that when it finally did come out, everybody kind of forgot it existed. And in addition to that, we've had a heck of a lot of trouble even getting it out in the first place. Just it felt like the road to getting things out, just things came up left and right during development that constantly caused us to trip over ourselves. I mean, during development, like family members passed away. I was engaged, and the woman I was engaged to left me. Like there was like a mountain of stuff that was happening during the game's development that constantly came in and slowed things down more so than was ideal. And that's meant, I think, a lot of people just kind of forgot we're there. With that said, of those who have played it, I'd say the feedback has been fairly consistent with what we got during the early access period. It's a game that asks a lot of you. It's very much a game that demands you engage with its systems in order to play it well and enjoy it. And, for some people, that's like crack cocaine. And for other people, it is not. So I'd say, regardless, it has provoked very strong reactions, but most of the strong reactions are positive. So
happy to hear that. Did not expect to hear that background that you were talking about. That I remember you put the video out before talking about the sound effects that were missing and stuff, and asked around. I thought that was just like the extent of what was going on.
No, life was chaos in throughout all of development. But in the so with regards to that, we did not get all the sound issues covered. Jason, who worked on Cultic, was actually a massive help on that front. He probably got most of our audio stuff done within the course of like 2 to 3 weeks. He knocked out so much, it was insane. And so God bless him. He was wonderful. The only thing we have left now, as far as like the game being complete sound wise, is the soundtrack, because about a month before the game came out, our composer John S. Weekly, who was working on the soundtrack for Chapter 3, he had to step down. He's coming back shortly, I think. Last I talked to him, he said sometime this month he should be good to come back so we can round out the soundtrack. We're only missing the music for 3 levels. And fortunately enough, the levels we're missing the music for, a lot of people just thought it was like an interesting creative decision. So I even had some people tell me like, don't put the music in, because they like the fact that the music drops out as hard as it does. So take that for what you will. We're gonna add the music, and if they don't like that, they can turn the music off. There's an audio slider for that. But so I'm hoping that will be coming soon, ideally within the same update that the New Game Plus stuff will be coming out for us.
So with the Gravelord, the release was one day before Doom Dark Ages got announced, and we had no idea. I actually got a couple of content creators interested in covering the game, and I was like content, like, okay, so the game will be covered. Yeah, and then suddenly they contacted me like, I'm sorry, I won't have the time, I have to cover other games. And I'm like, that's weird. And they didn't tell us like, guys, you should postpone the release, there's something big coming. No one said anything. So we basically announced our game, and 12 hours later or so, like, Doom Eternal, and we were like, what the fuck, and like that bit us in the ass. Sorry for the word.
You're among friends, talk how you want.
Okay, so yeah, so I didn't sleep the first night at all, like and I had to come up with something, because like we have investor in the company, and there was also one important thing. I wanted to start the game at a different price, right? And with each episode that would come, we would raise the pricing, and that actually probably was a good strategy, and but the investor was like, no, let's go full price. So that was a mistake. I would suggest that any new developers like really consider if the price is really set in the right way. And so basically there were a couple of mistakes and also bad luck in the beginning of the launch. But that was also the decision, like what to do now. So we started we had a plan for 4 levels, bonus levels that we wanted to release. So they are coming out slowly, but we are also working on the levels for Gravelord. But during that time, we were like, we do have a mechanic that we wanted to explore, the cards and the gameplay in the arenas, because we felt that the Gravelord story mode doesn't do them justice, and that there is a lot of gameplay undiscovered. And we were right. Basically, right away, the first map that we did for Horde Lord has been proven, or has been proven to be like an interesting and right decision, because like Horde Lord is much more like it's quite intense, right? You have horde mode where you fight like a finite number of waves, and then an endless mode unlocks for every level, right? And the endless mode is like extremely high octane combat experience, and like with like we in the team, we enjoyed it so much that when we are like testing out a couple of bugs that we fixed, then we find ourselves like engulfed in the gameplay for like 30 more minutes than we wanted to like play the game. So that was a nice touch, and we thought like this is, we want to give this part of the game like full attention for some time, and maybe like give the opportunity for players that don't really want to have the experience that Gravelord gives you, right? Because like it's story based, and not everyone is interested in that type of gameplay, and also some of the players that want to play levels that are in Gravelord don't really want to pay for a horde game, and so we didn't want to make it a part of it. So then we were looking for a solution with Steam, how we could basically still give the Horde Lord game to the like owners of Gravelord. So we found a way, and Horde Lord will be for free for Gravelord's early access supporters.
So it's going to be a separate application?
Yeah. Something like that. It will be like I don't know the backend stuff there, but we will basically give it as a gift or something to the people who will buy Gravelord, and it will be sold for like $5 separately. It will be just like a couple of bucks, because we of course acknowledge that like those assets, like the maps are completely new, right? There are also some tweaked things, and so we like, we don't really want to behave like a normal game publisher that basically reuses assets and slaps a full game price tag on it. So it will be $5 and sold separately. And I mean, it's great fun. The demo is out, and I mean, we're still struggling with visibility as always, because like also the development cycle, we don't really have enough time to collect wish lists, etc. But we'll see. Noah, I wanted to ask, like, so you have like a publisher, you have Fulcrum Publishing, right? And I mean, and when did you start? When did you release the early access?
So we went into early access in 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
So you survived a long time. Nice.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we were having. I think Steam at one point put a disclaimer on the game because of how long it was in early access. Without an update was the thing, because what ended up happening was my original plan, and our original plan with the publisher was that we would release an update for the early access version of the game every time we finished a chapter. So we'd have the initial early access release, which was just chapter 1. We'd have an update with chapter 2. And then an update with for the full release with chapter 3. The problem with that effectively became they wanted us to add more updates to that in order to keep engagement going. The problem became, and what we very quickly learned about early access, was that it was a terrible model for us, because there was a lot of aspects of the game which were still kind of in flux, and which were we were still kind of figuring out. And there were a lot of systems that had to get reworked mid-development a ton of times. And every single time we were having to make everything ready for release anytime we would push an update. And it ended up bogging down development so much for us to engage in the early access model. And so eventually when we got to chapter 3's development, we were like, okay, we can't release any more updates, because this is just, it's taking too long, and it's going to make us take even longer if we continue to like commit to this model. So we basically told our publisher, like, we can't do updates anymore. We're just going to work on the game until it's done and then release it. Because there were actually updates for the early access version of the game that we had to cancel just because they were so like, for example, I mentioned earlier we have like the gameplay cheats and modifiers system, and those are unlocked through an in-game store. During the early access period, we originally had an update plan where we were going to add that to the early access release. We ended up having to cancel that because just to get like the bare minimum of everything functional within the context of the game, not even to mention like ironing out issues and bugs and stuff like that, of which the modifier system in general created a lot. We ended up like that took like a month, and it kind of only as we continued to work on it, we were like, yeah, this is going to take at least another month, and it's going to continue to put us behind schedule if we keep focusing on this right now. And because it's a system where it's like, hey, you can jump into any level you want with these cheat codes and these gameplay modifiers. It's like, oh, well, guess what that means? Every time we want to push an update, now we have to play test and make sure that these don't break something. Which, as you can imagine, that's a little bit of a problem. So we were like, look, we understand you want these updates, but we just can't do this anymore because it's just making things take longer and longer and longer. So it's a really, really bad model for us. I didn't even want to go into early access originally. That was something we kind of were like, we want to throw our publisher a bone. They want to go into early access. But in retrospect, kind of committing to that is something I really kind of regret.
One other thing that I wanted to say, I can relate to that too, because like we released to early access in January, and since then we had a couple of updates. We did Steam Deck and the controller, and then we had like the bonus map. Another bonus map is coming, and the level editor is coming out. Like in after Horde Lord, that's our next milestone. And then we will then move on to fully working on the other episodes. We have a couple of levels already brewing, but early access, it's not what it used to be, and we actually were not. We were trying to look for a publisher. We were not able to get one for like a long time. We already had a working Switch version, which was very slow. So we're gonna do probably Switch 2. We'll see. But
Cool.
obviously we all struggle with the similar problems as developers.
Actually,
making video games is not an easy task. So
It's horrible.
it is. It sucks.
But we love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that reminds me though. I'm not directly involved with this. I kind of just help out where he needs me. But my lead programmer, Elijah, he's actually in the midst of working on console ports for the game as well. So that's also coming down the pipeline.
I love being able to play games on anything. I like to. It's kind of actually have Quake on my Switch. I like to when like on vacation or something, just pop up some Quake on Switch and just play through. So when I can get stuff like Viscerafest or Gravelord on there, that's pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
So Cold is going well. We did had some issues like internally on the team in terms of personal life or the team members and whatever. To be honest, in retrospective, based on the stuff the rest of you guys said, just it's not I would say it isn't as crazy or anything. But yeah, still some stuff that slows us down. Also, stuff from our end that we are learning how to do well or better. But overall, it's like continuing. We are essentially currently doing well for the past month and a half. We've been doing a playtest for the second level, the one after the demo level, and people have been loving it. To be honest, internally, like they giving us so much good feedback. We have improved it so much since then, and for now we just keep it up because people keep playing when we update. Sometimes we update like small things, sometimes like balance things, sometimes like corrections on content or different things, or sometimes it's just things that we didn't got the time to like some feedback or whatever. Maybe it's audio, maybe it's VFX, whatever. And yeah, people been quite liking it, and it feels like it's so much better. And that is actually interesting because that sort of lead us to the early access stuff, because it's a thing that we've been considering for a while now, just because of how much other people feedback has been like humbling for us, right? Like some stuff that you think like, oh, this is gonna just work fine, and then you realize it's like it's not. Like people hate it, or like people don't understand it, right? I actually felt like quite
Right.
in the same line as you were saying, Noah, with the when you ask things from players, because the problem is that I think asking a lot from players is, well, depends on the type of player, but it can be a good thing. The problem is that the moment they don't sort of stick with that, like it just like goes sideways, right? They hate it. So we had a lot of that going since the release of the demo. Some of it is our fault. Some of that is just finding the right way to actually communicate things to players, like the mechanic, the systems, the content, story, whatever. But yeah, we've been learning a lot, and since then, well, we've also been working on the third level. We are actually currently in the process of reviewing the scope of the game, because we would really like to see if we can release something next year, right? But like just especially because we do it on our free times, is like it's so hard to just estimate and say, yeah, that is like a good timeline, that is like a good like plan. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like new weapons, new enemies, new all of new stuff. It's just that it just takes a lot of time and it's hard. Pretty much the same as the rest.
Playtest is so hard.
Yeah.
By the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to make. I just want to say that the regarding the visuals or aesthetics, however you want to call it, I think it's a blessing and a curse, because we choose these aesthetics just because we wanted to stand out, but also we knew like there was some internal discussions inside of the team when we choose that. And the funny thing is that I wasn't actually on the boat of going that way. I actually want to go like some more retro style graphics, just because of in terms of production, right? How long it takes to make things, and so it's sort of like it feels good because it looks good. I feel like we managed to find something that helps make the game stand out, but at the same time, just the time it takes to make for a team as us with the resource of just free time, it's like it's hard to say if it's worth it or not. That is the thing I would say. So please.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I can and can't say.
Yeah.
You can say
Yeah.
anything; it will be cut.
Yeah.
It
no.
will be cut. It will be.
Yeah, because I'll get nuked from orbit. So yeah, the as far as like the financial side of things, I think our publisher was sort of hoping that the financial side of the equation would make things go faster than they did. A big part of the process for me is with Viscerafest. This is a project I've been working on since I was 12 years old. I am. So it was my baby, so to speak. And I was like, we're going to see this thing through to the end. And we're going to make sure that when it comes out, it is a game that is worth people's time. Like more than anything, that was like the end goal to me, is I was just like, I just want to make a game that I myself would want to play. Because I'm like, if I make something that I don't want to play, then how can I in good faith sell it to anyone? Right. And that at times did mean that there were compromises that had to be made on the front of time in order to accomplish that. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. The big thing with our publisher, I would say, is they were very, very frustrated with us. And because I honestly don't think they realized, I mean, maybe they knew, but I don't think they realized that this was the first time I have ever made a game. And it was like the first game of this scale that I think my lead programmer had worked on. And I mean, I think we told them that going in, but they sort of just assumed things would work out. And there were a lot of growing pains and learning pains that came with working on the game that meant it did take longer. And there were creative decisions we made it too early on that also made the game take longer to make. The headache was we were always fighting our deadlines throughout the entirety of development. Like, so originally the game was actually scheduled to come out like late 2022, early 2023. which, it just came out a few months ago. And I don't know if you know this, but it's not 2023 or 2022 right now. So the thing with that was when we initially drew up our schedule with our publisher, they asked us to schedule things like we would be working on the game full time, and we weren't originally planning to do that. Because we were not going to be provided the funds necessary to actually work on the game full time. But I don't think they realized how much pressure they put us under with the kind of the time frame they were asking for. And I don't think we were in a position to where we felt comfortable saying no to the opportunity that had been handed to us. So we kind of bit off more than they can chew, and they asked us to do more than I think they realized we were capable of doing. And then this resulted in, and I think they were expecting the financial side of things to kind of burden us into moving us along. But the problem is that they never put themselves in a position where we could ever afford to have them be our primary source of finances. So that meant that there was kind of this constant fight throughout the entirety of development to where it's like, we need to make, like, my lead programmer, for example, I think in 2023, he ended up having to get a full-time job elsewhere. I think he ended up working for 3D Realms for a bit. And to give you an idea of how problematic that was, there's basically 6 months of the game's development where we didn't have a lead programmer. Like, he was still there and he was still supposed to be working on the game, but he was so busy with the projects he was working on at 3D Realms that he just did not have the time to work with me on the game. And in tandem with that, he's married. He has a wife and a child, and actually now he has 2 children. So like, I'm not able to financially provide for him anymore because my publisher is not providing us with the money necessary that I can do so. And so that results in things like we have a 6-month period where I don't have a programmer to help me work on the game, which means that, I'm making progress, but the kind of progress I'm making isn't the kind that pushes us closer to the end of the deadline too far, right? And so there's a lot of issues like that throughout the game's development. We're just front to back, like finances and just again the tumult of life and the tumult of some of the creative decisions we made. Like, for example, all of the sprites in Viscerafest are drawn by hand. I go through with my mouse and I draw pixel by pixel all of the sprite work for Viscerafest. And that is not an efficient process at all. And I remember I sent some of the sprites I was working on to Jason who worked on Cultic, and he was like, why did you do it? He was just like, that looks like it was miserable to make. And I was like, it was. And it's one of the reasons why we don't have rotational sprites for Viscerafest, just because of it's such a laborious process to make sprites for it. But when you're halfway through development, it's too late to do anything about that now. So just from there being inefficient parts of the process to we want to make sure we do a good job and deliver on a good game that's worth people's time. And trying to balance that between living life and, I learned very early on that, so for example, in the lead up to the early access when I ended up having to pull several all-nighters regularly. I probably ended up doing 10 all-nighters between the time we released the demo and the time we released the early access version of the game. And I just can't do that anymore. I don't have the life in me to do that. And so, not being willing to crunch in that capacity also meant that things took longer. So, I mean, I don't have too much more to add to that, but it's kind of a mess every way you look at it.
Yeah. T-Bot, for you though, you're publishing, right? You're self-publishing.
Yeah, so we tried to get a publisher since the start of the idea. I guess it was 2020 or 21. It was after COVID. I don't know anymore. It's too long. But basically, we didn't manage to get a publisher. We had a couple of interested parties, but I mean, the terms were not in a way where we would be okay with them, or basically Richard, who is from the side of the investor, he's like I'm an executive director and he's one executive director, and so basically the thing was that we then decided to self-publish, but we were still talking to a couple of publishers, just like asking around, and we decided to self-publish. And basically your question was about like if we feel pressure towards the publisher, because we do have like an investor in the company who basically has our backs for like I don't know how many years already. They haven't turned any profit yet from the company, I would say, but they're still they are basically people who are crazy in a special way. But I mean, we don't really have we live in Slovakia. I don't know if you know the country, but it's in Central Eastern Europe. So our living expenses are not that high as like in California, for example, or the UK. But still, it's a lot of money that they put into the company. But I mean, they're still with us, and I mean, their support means a lot. So basically, they see the game, they watch the updates, they ask us how it's going, and then play the game or so. But I mean, it's not the typical relationship like publisher and developer. But I would actually maybe like for it there to be like a little pressure, because I mean then I work good under pressure, basically, and I worked for Activision, so like for a developer that worked for Activision, so I'm used to it. And on top of that, I studied architecture, so I am constitutionally okay with with all-nighters, which I was doing. But I mean, we don't crunch. Actually, I'm the only person that crunches in the team. But I mean, so there was pressure basically after the release of the early access of Gravelord. There was the pressure there. There were some hard talks we had with the investor, but that's why I said like I came up with the idea to do Horde Lord, and for an investor it's always to have one more product that doesn't cost you that much, so it's that's a good like position in the market to have to sales and bundles, etc. So but yeah, we'll see how Horde Lord goes, but there are ideas to make other games with this mechanics, because we found out that this suits us much better like as a small team, because like doing we had the map designers like Marky or Lunaran is still working on Horde Lord. We had Fairweather from Quake community, and so we had a lot of big names and really great maps in the first episode, which we will try to repeat for the next ones. But I mean, since the market changes a lot, there are some level designers who wanted to join the team but then were not able to because they lost their jobs in different companies, and so they have to move around and find something to feed their children, so it's really hard position in the industry, but I mean, Gravelord is moving forward, and I'm really looking forward to basically dive into the level design again, because like I'm doing mostly organizational stuff and some materials, etc. So everything basically besides like not coding. But the pressure is always there, especially when you know that like friends are financing your company and that you live off of friends. It's not some kind of a publisher with anonymous people for whom you are only a number or like a set of numbers in a spreadsheet, so it's completely different. And but I mean, like we do have like an awesome editor. I mean, like I'm really looking forward when it comes out, and that I'm able to present it to people and do tutorials, etc. And dive in again to making the map. So this is the pressure that I feel. We do have plans, we have a roadmap, we have everything, but I mean, stuff changes, and we're like, in my language, it's a good quote, like, don't lose your shit. We say it in a different.
That makes sense in English.
Yeah, so we don't have lose your shit, but it's like the main thing in life is not shitting your pants, you know. So so that's a motto I go by these months. And also with my personal life, I mean, like, my dad died during the development, and there's like the second map in Gravelord is inspired by like me saying goodbye to my father. And actually the map was then taken by Marky, and he did like a masterpiece out of the map.
That's really nice.
And I mean, there's a lot of blood and tears and sweat in the game, and the pressure is not really from the side of the investor. There is also the pressure, but the bigger pressure is to basically produce the best game that is possible, and then continue as a company, because like for every member of our team, the company is a dream job. And we used to work for big companies, for Activision, for like what was there, Bohemia Interactive and others. So it was also like an escape from this type of work environment, you know. So we would love to continue. And the best thing that there is when you read that someone likes your game, I mean, like getting feedback, and knowing that the person spent their hard-earned money to pay for your game, and you maybe in a corner of your mind you are not really that confident that it is as good as it could be, but you're hoping that the person will enjoy themselves. And like, yeah, that's the pressure that we feel, basically. Yeah, that's the pressure.
What I'm getting from the updates from everyone is that game dev is really hard.
Oh,
That's
really?
pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate, yeah.
No, that's
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you're
and
getting
also
a
the
little
market.
bit.
Just a smidge.
I don't know if you noticed that, but we used to, like, I heard the James from Cult, he's called James, that does Cultic from
Jason.
Jason. I heard
Jason.
him mentioning that he only gets a couple of hundred likes and reshares on his tweets. So I mean, like, we get just like a couple of tens, you know, and I mean,
Same,
where's
brother.
the problem? So I would say that he can be quite happy with what he's got, because he already built his audience when there was the boom with boomer shooters. And we're struggling. The other ones, the games and teams that are coming out now, they're quite struggling. I don't know if it's because of the person that owns Twitter now, or because of what, but I mean, like, we're getting even less. I used to have a couple of viral videos posted on Twitter, and one of them got nearly 1,000 likes, and now it's just So
I
think it just comes down to it just comes down to, I think, just this resurgence of old school games, and when you have things like Dooms and Painkillers and just like FPS games coming out on the regular that are by these big studios, on top of New Blood and all these other people who were there at the beginning of this kind of renaissance of FPS games, still releasing stuff pretty actively, and then you got all that, and then this, like, every day there's like a new FPS game that comes out. It's like DOSman stuff, Gravelord. It's just I feel like it's a pretty crowded market right now. Yeah.
It is, but I think it's slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the big thing is when retro shooters were kind of making their comeback within the early 2020s, like, it was the in thing, and there were a lot of people who were rediscovering the genre. I think it's safe to say a good chunk of the people who play video games, they don't commit themselves to one specific genre, but rather they enjoy a plethora of different games and genres. And in the world of video games in general, not specifically in regards to retro shooters, because I don't even feel like the market for retro shooters has been that crowded personally. But like within the world of video games at large, like there's so much to choose from right now. Like there's so many games coming
And
out
cheap
that it's hard to,
games.
and
Good
it's hard,
cheap.
yeah, and it's hard to keep up with them all. Especially like even
Yeah, I
just
guess
a
it's
little
really
indie
not
games.
just FPS.
Yeah, like
It's
this
just
is
indie in
I'd
general.
say,
I think that market is there's a lot.
yeah, it's but specifically within the context of the shooter world, there was a season where we were kind of booming and in the popular eye, and now that we've kind of sat and simmered for a while, that the popular eye has faded and is now looking elsewhere, and as a result, we're in a bit of a state where the audience isn't quite there anymore. Where we're sort of fading back to, I guess what you could say is like the casual baseline. So we kind of had our season of popularity, and now it's going back to the status quo, so to speak.
Makes sense.
Where again, you'll have like the really big hits, like I mean, Doom: The Dark Ages wasn't that big of a hit, I guess. But that's neither here nor there.
And it's also not like a boomer shooter, I would say. It's just
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
an
I
action
wouldn't-
whatever.
FPS.
I personally wouldn't consider any of the modern Doom games retro shooters, but let's be
Yeah, I
real, the
agree.
general audience does.
I agree. Yeah.
Like,
To be
I
honest,
don't think.
like
Yeah.
the whole thing about boomer shooters, like people keep discussing this for so long. Like I'm a little bit tired of like I mean I appreciate the naming just because it allows a lot, to find a lot of titles, but at the same time I think at this point it's not helping too much, like because people get lost into the tangent of like what it means to be a boomer shooter or not. It's like you just look if you like the shooter game. If it's cool, just play it. Then fuck off, right? Like
Right.
Yeah. But for example, I myself,
Yeah.
I never buy new games anymore, at all. I buy indies around like $20, but I never buy like a AA or AAA game for I don't know more than 10 or $15. And I think like a lot of customers are like this, and also like a lot of games are coming out that they're like $8 or $9, and they're completely like really good games, right? So people then probably use the slider on Steam and slide it down on like for games under $10, and then they buy in that area. So because like right now the economy is like shit everywhere, so I guess that's also a factor. And then for
Yeah,
me, for example,
yeah,
Steam
sure.
Deck. I own the Steam Deck, and I mean, you get like games that are awesome for the Steam Deck for a couple of bucks.
Yeah, that was the question I was writing down while y'all were talking about the publishers and all that. And I was curious. I've always felt like pricing has really not been in the favor of developers, which I guess is that's pretty obvious. Like, it's the kind of idea that like they sell consoles at a loss, right? They're only making a fraction what they make. So, by a similar analogy, you can think, I spent, in Osric's case, I've been working on this since I was 12. How do I price a game, that has that much behind it fairly, where it compensates me for my time I've spent, but also is something that people actually purchase? Has there been like any feeling on your end that's like, how do I make this where this is what I'm getting, what I'm worth, quote unquote, and also something that people actually pull off the shelf, so to speak? Because I know there is a lot of that where people I've seen so many indie devs recently that are just obviously undercutting themselves just to be seen. Like the $10 range, and there's games that'll take you 6 to 8 hours to beat that are great, and they'll charge $10 for me. Like, there's just no way you're selling that many units to make that worth your time. So, for the floor.
I just on that, I remember when I was talking to one of the well-known shooter indie publishers. We were not sure, like we are still not sure entirely about the price of the game, right? But back then we were thinking about doing like a 7-hour campaign or close to 8, which is probably not on the plans anymore. It's going to be shorter. But back then we were like considering like doing like maybe like because it's our first game, right? Like $10 for early access and 15, and they were like, no, that's too short, right? We were like, okay, well maybe we can sell. Like we are actually more interested in building a community. So because on the long run, that's gonna be better for us. Like, well, we are not interested in earning that small amount of money is going to make it harder to recoup, which is like fair enough. But then they made a good point, which is there's, and I don't know if this is true, this is just what they told me, but if you price down your game too much and sort of like make it look like a little bit sketchy, people can even like just like say what's going on here, right? Like it's not like automatically they think, oh, this is really cheap, I'm gonna buy it just because of that, but rather like what is going on here, like this seems weird. Like maybe if you reach that point,
question its quality.
yeah, I think overall more important than price is just building, which is of course hard when it's your first couple of games, but up until you don't have a community and you don't have an expectation from people made out of your brand and out of the type of games you make, the problem is that you just sort of only depend on reviews, right? And like people will like it's kind of weird to price a game in that situation. I feel like later you have much more leverage. You can just say like I can do it like a lower price and maybe sell more copies or higher. Like for example, New Blood. If New Blood releases a game now on $30, people will be like, some people who might not know them might be like, wait, this game looks like from the 90s. Why I'm gonna pay $30 for this? But then some other people say it's a fucking New Blood game, right? I'm buying quality, and they are right. They are right. Like they deserve it. But you know that is kind of like for me the complex relationship between the price and what people expect from your products or games or experience, how you want to call it.
And the other thing you're competing with is the already set expectations, right? So you're also dealing with, for example, you have a game like Dusk, which sort of is I guess you could say a standard setting game within the genre. And so now if you have a game like Dusk, people aren't going to feel comfortable. There's this weird sense I've found in a lot of people where they seem to like think we're all competing against one another and like we're fighting for each other's money or whatever, which really isn't the case. I don't get that. Like I've seen people who leave reviews on my game, like, and they'll be sitting here like whining, comparing, like, oh, like you're like they're acting as if I'm fighting for the people who would spend money on Dusk instead.
Yeah.
And like, no, why would I care what? Like, but that being said, there's this mindset of Dusk provides me with this amount of value for this amount of content. If you start pricing your games too low, below that standard, one, you're gonna have people think it's a game of lower value, kind of what you were getting at. But even beyond that, if you can't price it too high now either, because you're going to effectively be fighting against what people view as the established standard of the game's value. So it's like if I make a game that's like Dusk that has the same amount of content as Dusk does, I can't price it above $20 now, because if I do, nobody's going to want to spend money on it until it goes on sale, because like again, Dusk has set the standard, and so that's another kind of factor you're dealing with. Like I remember we used to be kind of like one of the big dogs within the subgenre. Now it feels like barely anybody knows we exist. Like I have like we had at one point I think we had like overnight like 3,000 people flood into our Discord server, and now there's like maybe one or two regulars I see on a regular basis who are talking in there. It's very
I feel
dead
you
quiet.
about that. Well, I mean, I don't think we ever were like top dogs or anything, but we on one of the Realms, if I don't recall, I think it's the one that we did the reveal trailer. People were like really excited about it, but we really fucked up the initial release of the demo, and that really hurt like the expectation of the game. And very slowly and grindly, we've been like just try to keep the game better. You know, it's like almost endless, right? That much to that, and I think that changed it, but that we did lost that sort of like hype for like the game. Just like I check like ever so often, like every 2 weeks, every month, like on the internet, there's like new video or people talking about. And yeah, we spent from like having like news and like things and to nothing. And yeah, our Discord is also pretty much like that as well. And it kind of sucks, but to be completely honest, what I get from that in perspective, or the lesson I take from that is that it's, I don't know if it's the same case. Like I think I played a demo for Viscerafest, but it was probably a long time ago. But I don't recall it being like really. It's like, is it quite replayable or not?
I mean, the current full release version is. I don't know if you would say the demo is. For me, I like if I really enjoy a game, I'll replay it. Like that's it's simple as that. I understand that not everybody has that mindset, but that for me that's the case. I'm like, if I enjoy a game, I'm gonna keep replaying it. It is replayable by virtue of being good.
Good. No, I get you.
But I don't think our demo
I think
provided.
That the whole thing comes down to the. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Disconnect here.
No, yeah, but, just go on. Yeah.
I'll let you continue, but what I was gonna say is, I think a lot of it, when it comes to like that sudden increase of sales, and then the constant drop off, or getting a ton of people in your Discord that are active, and then losing all those people. I don't think really it's about it's not really hyping it up and then keeping it hyped. It's more. That is the modern mindset, though. It's like you don't have. It's not like the '90s when Doom and Quake were coming out, or all those games back in the '90s, early 2000s, even into the 2010s. We had these games that still to this day have thousands of people who talk about them on a regular basis on Reddit, on Twitter, on Discord, on everything all the time, because they came out in a time where people's attention spans were much longer. People replayed games much more often, and people actually bought less games. And also, less games were as so easily accessible as they are today, because you can go on Steam and find 1,000 games for $5, $1, $2, $4, $10, $20. Versus back then, I mean, everything was roughly around the same price. There were not thousands of indie games. There were not tons of AA games. Just about everything at those points in time were either AAA or like something that wasn't quite AAA, but it was close enough, and it was still of a similar price range. But nowadays, people consume everything the same way, whether it's the way people consume YouTube videos or video games or movies or television. It has to be very accessible and catered towards the most casual audience imaginable, or it will never succeed. You do anything outside of that, and it's so easy to fail. And it's so hard to keep people's attention. It's like when you're making a YouTube video. If the first 10 to 30 seconds isn't instantly attention grabbing, people will just leave. And if you can't keep that attention span from 30 seconds to 3 minutes, then nobody's ever even going to watch the entire video.
That's why we opened this video with a cat.
And exactly. But I think that's an issue with all mediums of art, I think, at the moment.
When
it comes to movies and everything, if the movie isn't spoon fed to you, then people are like, it was just kind of hard to understand or something.
I think you definitely have a point there, but at the same time, I feel like the point of making indie games is that you can reach out to people who are expecting or more open to playing different things, right? Like if I'm gonna make when, and I can actually attest to this because that is my day job. But when you work on the AAA type game that they are fucking expensive, the amount of the process of trying to get it to be likable by so many people, to be honest, for me as a developer, is so crushing, because it removes the intention that you most of the time get. It just gets it's sort of having something really cool and putting it to a tube that just gets crushing until it's I'm not saying every game's like that, but it's pretty much the thing I wanted to say about replayability. Is I think this is lesson learned at least from me, and certainly true for Cult at least, which the problem with games that are not meant to be replayable, which is it doesn't matter if it's narrative or not, but it's a linear thing that you just play once and it's great, and then maybe if it's amazing you might replay it, but it's not. The problem with that is that the time it takes for it to be on a really good shape so people can actually experience it properly, it's insane, right? The amount of time it takes is insane. A good example of this, if you play any of Half-Life 2 or any of the episodes and you play with the dev commentary, some of the maps they iterate and playtest with players for 3 years, right? And we're talking $1 million company back then, right? A lot of $1 million, right? 100 million, whatever. And imagine if you're an indie developer. And I think that the thing here, and I'm not advocating for just make replayable games, but it's certainly something that works better with the resource of an indie developer, is that once you try to make a replayable experience, you can just work on that loop and then keep adding, and that is sort of exponential how much is adding. When you're making a linear thing, It's just like up until the very release of the game, probably your game has so many flaws, right? And you need the opinion of players, actually, to get them in the right place. So it's really, really hard, to be honest. Like, I'm not saying it's don't do that type of game, but you're up to a big challenge. We certainly are. So
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree. I mean, it's hard to do all that. It's such a weird point in time that we are right now when it comes to all that kind of stuff, and some of that stuff you were talking about with like sticking to what you want to make versus making something that's accessible for everybody, kind of thing. That's kind of why people are not such big fans of AAA anymore, is because AAA has become so stagnant at being ultra accessible and constantly being something that everybody can consume at this very casual level, that AAA is kind of now really crashing pretty hardcore for a lot of those reasons. Yet simultaneously, a large portion of people still absolutely love to buy those same extremely accessible games while also complaining about them at the same time. So it puts the industry in a very interesting spot right now.
Yeah, you made a really good point earlier, Deadforge, and I think you're right. It is like the modern mindset problem that you kind of can only harness or kind of tame so well. There was a video going around last week about how it's not that YouTube essays are getting worse, it's that YouTube is. And by the same token, you can imagine that if they're propagating kind of the lowest common denominator, by definition, that's just the way the system works, that you can make the best, what's the Star Trek quote, you can do everything right and still fail, that kind of idea, is you might be making exactly what you're supposed to be making and doing exactly right, not overburdening people with constant updates and look at me's and all this kind of stuff, and be doing exactly right and the way you should be doing it, and it may not matter to the success of the game, because everybody's sort of hardwired to have the empathy for the little guy but still be sort of tuned into the way the big machine has made them think all the time. Just to be cynical about it, that it may you kind of, I say all that to say, as the little guy who's been grinding on the YouTube for forever, and I see somebody who's been doing it for 6 months and they've got 30,000 subscribers, you kind of go, what the fuck, like,
I literally put out,
you kind of always have those thoughts like, what could I be doing to emulate, or how could I translate me to the audience better, that it may not be your fault, it may just sort of be like the grind right now. And,
there was somebody mentioned on LinkedIn that they spend so much time doing all of this professional content and stuff like that, and then they get like 400 views, and someone goes and uploads a video of a hamster doing a cartwheel, and it gets 104 million views or some shit. And it's like, why am I doing this?
It's wild.
Just get a hamster, like.
Or Asmongold covers your video and you're on for life.
And it was kind of what Medium was talking about. But I had like some videos that only got a few hundred, maybe 1,000 views or something, and then I had like these shorts that I made a while back, and I think max my shorts have all ever been like 30 seconds, and one of them is just like I put audio from Fight Club over fighting in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. You can fight in the like boxing rings or whatever, and I just did a little thing, and I put like the like emojis at the top, and I just for the hell of it, and it has like 20,000 views or something, and it's one of the most least effort put into anything in my entire life, and it's done better than 90% of everything that I've released in the last 3 years, which blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Same.
Like club music and hamsters, that's what we all need. Maybe hamsters fighting.
It's $1 million
with Fight Club
idea.
music,
and
Brad Pitt talking over it. Who was the last person you made happy, and what did you do? What did you do to do it? Okay. Yep. That's it.
Right. So I'm meeting one of my best friends. So I'm from Argentina. I'm meeting one of my best friends who he's also from there. He's living in Vancouver right now. We are meeting each other in a few weeks in London. And as a surprise, we are a group of 3 friends. I was like secretly trying to pull honor of like the third friend from Madrid. So we are going to see each other. So he was really happy about that. I'm also really happy. Yeah.
That's cool. What situation is sure to make you cry?
Cry. Huh.
Yeah.
He's
He's like, huh? That's an emotion I've never felt.
Probably any movie that has dogs and they die like that. Yeah, I can.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Sometimes, my fiance, usually will cry at any movie that has a dog in it. And sometimes when you're watching horror movies, especially, you got to be like, if there's a dog in it, you got to be very careful. You're like, what's going to happen to this dog? You got to pay attention. You're like,
Does the dog die?
Yeah. Yeah, always. All right, so question number 3. What's the most recent interesting conversation that you've had?
There's one, but I cannot say that one because it's work related and it's actually disgusting. Not in a good way. It's not sexual or anything like that.
If you want to allude to it.
Yeah,
we're interested. Now we're interested.
No, we can talk off camera about that one if you want.
I just work here.
Oh, you said really interesting, right? Did you say really interesting or okay?
Yeah, the most interesting.
Yeah, it was like the last, most recent, interesting conversation that you had.
Yeah, that's a hard one, motherfucker. Yeah, to be honest, I cannot think. I think it wasn't long ago. I was in a pub talking with an old man. He was telling me stories from his old times. But I cannot recall. I was probably pretty drunk back then. But that felt like a meaningful time. So maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Okay. All right, so next 3, we're gonna go with Tibor. What's the last thing that you broke, and how did it happen?
My earphones. My not AirPods, but the JBL ones, and I threw them in the washing machine, and and they actually worked, but not really for a long time. The battery was broken, and they work only 10 minutes, and then they get off. They get turned off.
I've been there. I had some that I left in my pocket
for
before,
the first time
and
for me.
Yeah.
One day we can wash our tech. One day.
Good to hear that. One day. All right. Do you have a special project you're currently working on?
Yeah, Horde Lord, and I'm also working on I have a lot of things that I have to handle in my own life, in personal life. They eat a lot of my time, a big part, but also I have a couple of small ideas for mini games, and I try to write them down and maybe try to code a prototype in Game Maker or something like that. And I'm also reading a lot of stoicism, and I do some notes, and I try to come up with a couple of quotes that are important for myself. Basically, yeah, something like that, maybe.
Do you think you were ever part of the popular crowd?
Like in school?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, probably, yeah, but I was always they called me. Actually, today I got called by my friend. He said you have that I have one side of a personality that is really a dominant and fighter since I do MMA, BJJ, etc. But
yeah,
I'm also still a poet and a philosopher. He gave me such a compliment, basically, that I have so I was part of the popular crowd in school, where we were fighting a lot, and it was all about the male dominance, etc. But I was also the nerdy kid and the guy who was in the library behind the computer and coding stuff in BASIC. And then when my 15 minutes were gone, then other kids were playing on the computer. So, and I was playing with them, so I was always a part of the popular crowd, but always somehow like a little outsider outside of the group. So yeah, but so yeah.
So what you're saying is you're a
Okay.
Renaissance man.
Maybe. maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Stop it.
Oh my god.
Oh, you meant like this type of Renaissance man? No, that's not me. Yeah. I'm pretty boring in this. I'm pretty vanilla.
Alrighty. So, for Osric, what recent situation was nearly a disaster, but you were able to prevent it?
Oh my goodness. Well, my game came out. I mean that could have been a disaster, and I mean maybe it was. I don't know. It didn't sell that well, but I mean people seem to mostly like it, so I take that for what you will. So yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's something I could say, but like, I mean, like releasing a game in general is always a massive headache. Not that I have much experience with that, but I'm told that. And it was for me. So for all intents and purposes, it went okay. I was stomachable, so.
Nice.
What's the best thing that can happen in the first 5 minutes after waking up?
First of all, I get out of bed. That's a pretty big one because that doesn't always happen.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but
I mean, I mean, like, here's the thing. I find when I wake up in the morning, if I manage to get up early enough, I'm so much more productive in my day.
Yeah.
Like the thing for me, I find is like whenever I sleep in more, like my day always goes worse and it's always less productive than it is if I get up early. So if I manage to get up early, that's probably a sign it's going to be a pretty decent day. But beyond that, like having following from there, like just trying to think. Beyond just waking up, I enjoy I read my Bible every morning, have a time set aside for prayer. Just being able to spend that time with the Lord in the morning is I always find that as well leads to like it kind of tempers the mood of the rest of the day. And the times when I neglect that, those days are almost always worse.
Very nice. Is it a Orthodox cross you've got on?
It is indeed. I am a Protestant stinker, but I recently visited an Orthodox church, and I love Eastern Orthodoxy. And they kind of explained to me why the cross they have it as it's depicted is a little bit different from the way Protestants and Roman Catholics depict it. And I was just like, I love the way they explain it. In particular, the bottom bar is basically it's the board that Christ's feet would have been nailed to. And they depict it as tilted up on the right hand toward the thief on the cross who asked Christ to remember him in his kingdom, and down toward the thief who rejected Christ, effectively symbolizing the way of life and the way of death, which that really stuck with me, and I was like, I like that.
Pretty good.
yeah, it is. So what is your close call story?
Close call story. Ooh. I mean, honestly, I could just tell the story of like what happened in the lead up to the release. Like we had Markey, we brought on Michael Markey to do our sound. He had done the sound and music for the game's first chapter. He had done the sound for the game's second chapter, and he had to depart because he was working the 3D realms at the time. So he couldn't. Yeah, he's awesome. I love him. But during he had to depart during the game's second chapter and couldn't do the music on the game's second chapter. And we brought him back to do the sound on the game's third chapter because he unfortunately was let go from 3D Realms. And in the wake of that, just like life hit him like a brick. He lives in California, and there were the wildfires in California. There was just like it felt like everything hit him which way, and that meant none of the sound on the game was getting done, and we were like a month out from release. And we had like 100+ sounds that we needed between enemy types, between stuff we needed for the levels, ambient stuff, like just the whole smorgasbord of sounds, which is going to be completely missing from the game's final chapter. And so we put out a call basically saying, hey, like, it looks like we're probably not going to have most of the sound, even story-related sound, coming down to voice acting and dialogue was going to be missing from the game's final chapter and the cutscenes and whatnot. And so after putting that out, we had a ton of people reach out to us and kind of help us get the sound done. Like I said, Jason was really instrumental in that. But there was like a good 4 or 5 people who came on board and helped us. And in our credits, I think this entire section that like as we're listing like the people who helped us out with sounds, like we have a special note next to everyone who reached out and helped us with that. And that was a huge answer to prayer. Just like because that was like so stress inducing. It hurt so much to put that video out, and because I was just like, I don't want to be dishonest with people and tell people that we're releasing a finished game, because whether I like it or not, it's coming out. Like there's nothing I can do about that. And so like that was like, yeah, like the Lord was working in the midst of that situation and provided so wonderfully. Again, like a massive thank you to Jason. And I think there was, who else helped us out with that? I want to shout them out real quick because they were such a blessing. There was,
I think we put it in the server so that
yes. So there's Mothership Loudspeakers who's working on Technoplasm. There was a friend of ours on the Discord named Matowar. He helped us out with a sound or two. There was, what's his name? He made Relentless Frontier. Krzodin was a massive help.
Yeah.
And there's probably 1 or 2 others. I'm not going to be able to remember what their names were. Degnabbit. But yeah, like all the people who helped us out with that were such a massive blessing. I can't thank them enough. Yeah.
It's good when people get together because everyone thinks you're in competition with each other, but behind the scenes you're often in support of each other. Yeah. Just in lieu of the usual viewers' questions, then for the viewers at home, we're going to ask our guests if they have a question for each other that is developer related. So going from my screen here, I can see that Osric, that would go over to Tibor. Tibor, you would ask Juan a question. Juan, you would ask Osric a question. So starting at Osric, what is it that you would ask developer to Tibor?
So maybe this might be a little bit too personal, but I recall you said earlier that you made the 2nd level of your game in honor of your father. Can I ask kind of what that looked like and what your thought process was to that?
So, like the original idea for the level was that, like, my dad passed away because of COVID, and like he was an asthma patient for his whole life, and he basically had no chance even though he was vaccinated. And I mean, I stopped talking to my dad 2 years before his death because of like the complicated relationship that was between us, and I was really broken up about that even while he was alive. And yeah, basically I never got to say goodbye. So the idea was that there's this like the casket, or what's it called, like the casket, coffin, yeah. So, and it like basically you accompany the coffin through the level, through like sections of the level. The idea was basically to escort the coffin to the crematory, right? and basically after you burn the coffin, then there is the artifact of the shovel, the magical shovel that basically your character as Guido, that you inherit from your father, right? But I was basically prototyping it, and I didn't have enough time to basically develop the idea further, and Marky got hold of the idea, and he executed on it like masterfully. It's really like my probably the favorite level in the game, obviously. But I mean, yeah, it was some kind of catharsis of like playing it this way. I also had one dream. I have lucid dreams, and I had a dream with my dad where we traveled for 6 months through Europe and talked the whole time. So yeah, so that was like the yeah. Thanks,
Thanks.
thanks a lot for the question. It's really good question. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for such a personal answer. And again, I always say to people, if there's something you want me to cut out because you think it's too personal, let me know off.
I mean, no, it's like we share this. I'm a person who doesn't really like keep anything inside.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Tibo, what question would you have for Juan then, Mr. Elmugu?
Well, I didn't have really the opportunity for seeing the game, but since we are on the note of like the personal side of the development, I mean, what was the greatest sacrifice that you had to offer to game development to be where you are today? What was the hardest sacrifice or the biggest sacrifice?
I mean, besides the ungodly hours I probably spent just like grinding, so there was after my first job ended with me leaving because the situation was unbearable at that place, and I went from making like doing regular gameplay programming and some design to like going back to regular software development just because I needed, right, also financially. uh so that was a big sacrifice, but I only made it because the promise was that I was going to start doing my own games. And actually that's when I started. Like, it was the project before Cult, which never released it. Great track record on us. And I would say that was a big sacrifice because it meant stop. Like, back then, I'm from Argentina and I was living in a small city, and there was like 3 places you could work. So I knew that leaving that job will be probably highly likely I couldn't get another job in the industry, at least in that city. That I was pretty lucky in that change, actually, really, really lucky. If it's not that, I will say I moved countries to continue my career from Argentina to the UK, so that was another big sacrifice. Also, leaving all of my friends, my family, one of my dogs. So probably that one is even worse, I would say. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Juan, what would you like to ask Kazri?
So I think one of the things that you said, Noah, that stuck on my mind, because it felt like similar to an experience I had when you said that your game asks a lot to the players. One thing I learned so far, and I still haven't released my game, but that's why I'm really, really interested to know what you have to say on this, is that from the get-go, I intentionally designed it towards asking things to the player, because I think that is a way to actually respect the player, right? And you ask a lot, but you give a lot in return, right? Different type of value fund, whatever you want to call it. But my learning so far has been that a lot of the time I was like, oh, this should be like clear for the player, or like, this is great, I think this is great value. And then I learned that it's not, right? Like, I had a really humbling process in the past 2-3 years around that, but I haven't yet released the full thing. So yeah, how was that experience from you?
Like, in terms of like how players responded to some of the decisions we made, or
Well, both that, but also how you feel after the whole process, right? Like, did you start with already this sort of like really asking a lot type of experience to a player, really complex thing, and then how much of that ended up being the right way of asking, right? Or like how much do you think you learned from that side of things?
I'd say how do I put this? I think for starters, the mindset I had kind of walking, I mean, a lot of game development, this was my first game. So a lot of game development in general for me has been a process of learning front to back. I think it was during Doom 2016's, so the interview rounds that were going through the 2015 period in the lead up to Doom 2016, id Software was really pushing this idea and talking about the concept of push forward combat. And in general, as I was kind of growing up and I sort of fell in love with the retro shooter genre, I sort of began to develop and have this idea of a game should incentivize and encourage players to engage with the aspects of the game that make that experience enjoyable, right? And so when I'm developing a game, the kind of questions I'm asking in the back of my mind are, what are some fun core concepts and ideas that we can use to drive the experience forward? And how can we incentivize the players to engage with those systems and with those mechanics? So for example, with us, one of the big things we wanted to do was making bunny hopping a very big central mechanic within the context of the game. There were some areas early on, I would say, where we didn't provide enough incentive to use some of those mechanics. And so we ended up having to double back throughout the course of development as we kind of were getting feedback and try to find more and more ways to incentivize players to engage with the experience in the way we wanted them to. Effectively providing more punishments as well as more rewards to provide the player with reasons to engage with our systems. So one of the simple ways in which that manifested itself is we had player, bunny hopping is somewhat of a big ask for a lot of players. And so the question is, okay, well, how do we provide players with more reasons to bunny hop? And one of the ways we went about doing that, other than just mechanically simplifying it so that it was approachable for most people, was we added a mechanic where as you're bunny hopping, any damage you take is cut in half, which means that even if you're, say, bad at dodging things, it's still beneficial for you to bunny hop by proxy of the fact that you'll just be taking less damage in general. And sort of implementing systems and mechanics like that in such a way that, again, we can provide incentives for players to engage with the parts of the game that make it an enjoyable experience in the first place. And in general, like the general design ethos of Viscerafest was taking everything I loved about first-person shooters and pushing those things to the forefront, or specifically retro shooters, and pushing those things to the forefront in a way I hadn't seen other games doing. Like for me, when it comes to retro shooter combat, what I personally love about it is resource management, it's incentives to engage in aggression, and it's target prioritization. And these three things combined effectively turn the retro shooter subgenre at its peak into a pseudo fast-paced strategy game. And so the question for me became, as we were working on Viscerafest, how do we make that kind of experience where that is the game, right? Like, it's not like you can play this way, right? Because you can play games like Doom that way, but you don't have to. You can play them like they're just mindless running down action games. But the question became, how do we make the game play that way for everyone across the board? And then by proxy, one of the things we had to learn is how do we inform the player in such a way that they understand that going in and they can engage with that. And I'd say for the most part, we were successful on that front. There are some areas where I think we could have maybe gone into a little bit more detail and explained things better for the player. But early on, we really wanted to respect the player's intelligence and not bombard them with tutorialization. And I think the problem we ran into initially was because of how much we ask of the player, we can't afford not to inform them of what the game they're playing is, right? I know there are some players who still don't like how much information we give them, but the problem is that if we don't give them that information, then they're going to run into situations where they just don't understand what they're doing wrong, and as a consequence of that, the experience is going to suffer as a result. And we even see that now because people, of course, can turn off the tutorials. And a lot of times when they do, or they skip a tutorial and don't read it, they inevitably end up complaining about something that is just a byproduct of something they don't understand. And that's in general. That's just a natural byproduct of asking, of effectively trying to make a game that in some way, shape, or form respects the player's intelligence. Is that it does mean that some people aren't going to pick up on everything you're putting down. And even if they do, they might not necessarily enjoy everything you're putting down. Not every game is for everyone. But in the midst of that, again, I'm very, very happy with how the game came out. There's only really a relatively minor few things I would tweak from here, and I'm working on tweaking those things the best I can. There's some things like in regards to like art assets, I wish I could have done differently just to make the process more efficient, and I think to get a better final result in general in that regard. But overall, I'm very, very happy in Viscerafest. And like I said, like my goal in general from the outset was making something that I could in good conscience sell to people. And I think I can say I've achieved that. So
Awesome. It's good to hear. Congrats. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant answer.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of the Quad Damage Podcast. Thanks so much to our impromptu guests who have the goodness of their heart and came out to make an episode out of nowhere. A pretty good one, I think. All thanks to them. So thanks so much, guys. And for those of you who didn't catch their names at the beginning, Osric of Viscerafest, where can we find you and your project that you've been working on?
yeah, I think I'm at Viscerafest on Twitter and probably the same on Blue Sky as well, but I don't use that one as much. We also have our Discord. You can find the link to that in the Steam forums as well, and I think it should also be on my Twitter page. But yeah, I'm fairly active on Twitter and on our Discord. So if you post anything, if you want to talk to me, like I'm always available and open. So yeah, it's pretty easy to get a hold of me.
Muru, Cult, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'm not gonna call it X at evilguinemugu or Blue Sky at elmugu.bluesky. I don't know. Blue Sky, I mean, I quite like it, but like those at and then the dots and everything, it's so fucking hard. Just like look for Mugu, it's probably gonna be there. Yeah.
Same. All right, Tibor, and where can we find you and Gravelord associated things?
Yeah, we're on Twitter and on Blue Sky as at Fatbot Games. I myself am at Smuffix, but it's not very interesting. But basically, look out for Horde Lord. It's coming, and it's a lot of fun. If you don't own Gravelord Early Access, then it's gonna be around $4.99 on Steam. And enjoy gaming and game development. And thanks for having the opportunity to be here and talk with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you all.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, guys. I'm sure you know me as Midnight Medium. I'm on YouTube, Patreon, all the associated places, and a Midnight Medium at Twixter. Deadforge, where can we further associate with you?
Yeah, so of course it's Lord of the RPG on X/Twitter, Deadforge on YouTube, Deadforge on Patreon, and I think that's about it for right now.
Robert, take us away.
You can find me personally on Twitter at RobbieYapp80. You can find the Quad Damage Podcast on Reddit at Quad Damage Podcast, on Blue Sky at Quad Dam Podcast, Twitter at Quad Dam Podcast. I've just started putting out plugs for our merchandise, our affiliates, and a channel trailer as well. So visit those links if you come across us on social media.
Until next we meet.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh,
Keep on booming.
Keep on booming.
Keep on booming.
Considering how bad the lag was
Perfect.
on that last thing, there was no way in hell we were going to get any sudden inner star.